So we need to talk about Joe Biden and why you're currently seeing headlines like, before Biden can save Ukraine, he must use the NATO summit to save himself. With then also everyone from the likes of Fox News framing it as a make or break moment for Biden, to the Associated Press describing it as an opportunity for him to, quote, reset his stumbling campaign. And all of this, as if you go online right now, it's hard to know what's real or not. Right? There are real things like Michael Bennet becoming the first Democratic senator to publicly question Biden's candidacy. And you've had the likes of Democratic Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill becoming the 9th House Democrat to call for Biden to drop out of the race. But then, you've got the likes of the Bezos Bugle, right? The folks of the Washington Post reporting California Congressman Ted Lieu, the vice chair of the Democratic caucus, said on a House Democratic call that President Biden should not seek re-election, right? Making him the highest ranking House Democrat to call on Biden to step aside from his campaign. With then Ted Lieu himself responding to a post by Yashar Ali going, hey, great picture of me with Biden. This is false. With then actually Ted Lieu using the attention to say this to reporters.
We hear a lot from our constituents on different issues, but something I've heard that doesn't seem to be being covered are the Epstein files. These files were released, and like Donald Trump sort of all over this, right? There are pictures of him with Jeffrey Epstein. He's taken multiple plane flights with Epstein, with young girls on board. He is in call logs with Epstein. One of the highest trending hashtags on Twitter right now is about Trump and Epstein. I'm not going to repeat the hashtag because we're in a dignified setting. But yeah, y'all might want to look at that because that's highly disturbing. And again, it shows that Donald Trump is unfit for office. And by the way, he was convicted in a civilian court for sexual assault, convicted in a separate court of 34 felonies. Donald Trump should drop out of the race.
And then, just this morning, right before I started shooting this show, I saw MSNBC, the outlet that you'd think is probably the most pro-Biden out there. They posted moments ago, Democratic Senator Blumenthal, quote, I am deeply concerned about President Biden. Right, you see that and you go, holy shit, this is huge. But then when you watch the full clip, it is hard to see it as anything other than, at the very least, a wildly irresponsible shortening of that quote that changes the entire narrative. Or at the very worst, an attempt to mislead the public.
I am deeply concerned about Joe Biden winning this November because it is an existential threat to the country if Donald Trump wins. So I think that we have to reach a conclusion as soon as possible. And I think Joe Biden, as the Democratic nominee, has my support.
Right, that is a wildly different statement. Right? And so with all of that, I want to say two things. One, I'm not dismissing your concerns if you're concerned about Biden's age and his performance, right? Especially after that shit show of a debate. But also at the same time, I want you to consider that there is what could be described by some as a concerted effort, not an all-encompassing, but a decent effort from those in corporate media to take Biden out. And that for a wide range of reasons. Right? Some want to push him out as the nominee and they want to use their position to try to foster that. Whereas others' motives are connected to the most true thing that Donald Trump has ever said. And that is many who run these news organizations, they miss Donald Trump. They miss those views. And so just something that I want to stress with this is be very skeptical of everything you're seeing right now. There's a lot that's real, there's a lot that's fake, there's a lot that's being misconstrued to push whatever narrative someone wants to push for whatever reason. But regarding Biden himself and this NATO summit, he's actually said himself that the summit is a good venue for judging his abilities. And he's pointed to his leadership in rallying NATO support for Ukraine as evidence that he's ready to serve 4 more years. With him also in a speech kicking off the summit yesterday, really hammering the point home.
Make no mistake, Russia is failing in this war. More than 2 years into Putin's war of choice, his losses are staggering. All of we allies knew that before this war, Putin thought NATO would break. Today, NATO is stronger than it's ever been in its history.
So with that, you had outlets like Politico and the New York Times who, to be clear, haven't hesitated to report on the concerns around Biden's age and mental fitness, noting he was clear and forceful, speaking in a strong voice with few errors. But of course, different people got to watch that speech and come out with very different opinions on the guy's abilities, which is also why it's notable how Biden's trying to differentiate himself about Trump on more substantive policy matters regarding Ukraine, right? Trump's known for criticizing NATO member states for not honoring their 2014 commitment to spend 2% of their GDP on defense spending. And back in February, he actually said that he wouldn't provide military protection to any member state that had not met its financial obligations to NATO.
If we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want.
And so while Biden didn't mention Trump by name, he did make a point of saying that the number of NATO member countries that are meeting the 2% target has jumped from 9 to 23. He also announced the delivery of new air defenses for Ukraine, along with the Netherlands, Germany, Italy, and Romania, which is big because that is something that Ukraine's been asking for months, right? I mean, because without them, Russia's been able to hammer the country with airstrikes, right? Like we saw on Monday when Russia launched a deadly strike on a children's hospital in the country. And all of this is happening as people outside of the US understand that there's a lot at stake in this election outside of the country, which is actually something NATO has been trying to get ready for. They're seeing European leaders using the NATO summit to explain the importance of the military alliance to American voters, but this also is they're looking to Trump-proof the alliance. And that, in a number of ways, including by moving control of major elements of military aid to Ukraine away from the US to other parts of NATO. But that said, we're gonna have to wait to see how the rest of this summit plays out, and of course, in the meantime, I'd love to know your thoughts.